All right, readers, we are working on lesson 8. Touching column 1. The words in column 1 have more than one syllable. The first syllable is underlined. Word 1. What's the first syllable? Few. What's the whole word? Fewer. Word 2. What's the first syllable? See. What's the whole word? Season. We are soon beginning the season of fall. Have you felt fall weather moving into the air? I sure have. Word 3. What's the first syllable? Hurt. Whole word? Hurting. Word 4. What's the first syllable? Cloud. Whole word? Cloudy. Word 5. First syllable? Old. Whole word? Older. Scholars, let's do that whole column the quick way. Ready? Up here to the top. Fewer, season, hurting, cloudy, older. Very good. Column 2. So the first 3 words actually name places. So number 1, that place is Reedy Lake. What place? Good. Place number 2 is Clark's Hill Lake. What place? Excellent. Word 3 is Jackson Lake. What place? Well done. And word 4 is the word shown. What word? Shown. Like I have shown you these words. Let's do column 2 the quick way. All 4 words back to the top. Here we go. Ready? Reedy Lake, Clark's Hill Lake, Jackson Lake, shown. Pause if you need to practice any of those. Otherwise, we are moving to part B. So scholars, we are going to continue our next story about Henry and Tim, but today we have an information passage first that gives us some facts about the sun heating the earth. Everyone touching the title together? Ready? The sun heats the earth. That's what our information passage is about. The sun heats the earth. You can figure out which parts of the earth are hot and which are cold if you look at how the light from the sun gets to the earth. The picture shows lines of heat that are going from the sun to the earth. Those lines are the same distance apart. So scholars, let's touch those lines. Notice that all the lines are the same distance apart, but some of the lines are longer than other lines. But they're all the same distance apart from each other, just some are longer than others. Ready? Here's a rule about the lines of heat. Places on the earth that have more lines of heat are hotter than places that have fewer lines of heat. Let's say that rule together. It's in bold. Are you ready? Places on the earth that have more lines of heat are hotter than places that have fewer lines of heat. Places A, B, and C on the earth are the same size. But one of them is a very hot place and one is a very cold place. Touch place A. That area by A is the same as by B and by C. The hot place receives more lines of heat from the sun. So, if you want to find out which place has more heat, you count the number of lines from the sun that hit that place. Count the lines that hit place C. Everyone take a moment to do that. How many lines are hitting place C? Did you say 4? Now, if another place on Earth had more lines of heat, would that place be hotter or colder than C? Right, it would be hotter. Count the lines of heat at place B. Everyone do that. How many lines of heat hit place B? Right, 8. So which place has more lines of heat? Place C or place B? B is correct. Now count the lines of heat at place A. Everyone do that. How many lines of heat hit place A? Did you say 10? 10 is correct. So which place has the most lines of heat? Right, A. Which place has the fewest lines of heat? Correct, C. Remember, the sun heats the earth, and the equator receives more heat than any other part of the earth. Scholars, that ends our information passage. Press pause and read this information passage aloud before we continue. Good work. I hope that went well. So, scholars, we are ready for our next story today about Tim and Henry. A new plan. Tracking fingers ready, please. Follow along with me. Remember, finger or bookmark or index card. But build a good habit of tracking, please. The next day's flight was very hard on old Henry. His wing was sore, and the next landing place was a little more than 300 miles south of the landing place in Michigan. It would have made sense for the geese to travel only 200 miles and then spend the night at a new landing place. But geese don't always make sense. They always go to the same landing places. If those places are a little more than 300 miles apart, the geese fly a little more than 300 miles. Tim and old Henry reached the landing place by late afternoon. This landing place was between two lakes in Kentucky. One was large and one was small. So, scholars, what state is the landing place in? Right, Kentucky. What state was the last landing place in? Right, Michigan. Here's where we are, if you're still tracking. Something about the large lake didn't seem right to old Henry. There were some geese on the large lake, but they were too close to the shore. Henry's wing was so sore that he really wanted to land and rest. So he told himself, there's no problem down there. And he started to lead the way down to where the other geese were swimming. Tim flew up next to old Henry and said, I don't think we should land there. Why not? You told me never to land in a place that had only a few geese on the water. Just then, the geese heard a sound that was something like another goose calling, but Old Henry knew that it was not the sound of a real goose. He said, "You're right, Tim. There are hunters down there. Let's get out of here." The geese made a great turn and started to climb higher and higher into the sky. Just then, there were loud banging sounds. Hunters were shooting at Tim and old Henry, but they were too far away. "You may have saved our lives," Henry said to Tim. "You're a very smart young goose." The two geese found another landing place about 5 miles away. It was a field that had a small pond in the middle of it. The geese landed, took a nap, and then ate some seeds. Old Henry wanted to go the rest of the way to Florida, but he knew that he could not travel as fast as flocks usually go. If Henry was to make it, he would have to fly one day and rest the next. He couldn't fly 2 days in a row. When the sun was growing red in the west sky, the two geese were sitting near the pond. Tim said, "So, where do we go tomorrow?" Henry told him the plan. "We're going to rest tomorrow. Then we'll fly the next day." Tim said, "But I'm not tired. I'll be ready to fly tomorrow." "I won't be ready," Henry said. Tim looked at Henry for a long time. Then he said, "Well, you're in charge. Anything you want to do is fine with me." So the birds rested the next day. Late that afternoon, a large flock of more than 80 geese landed near the pond. The leader of the flock and 3 of the older geese came over and talked to Henry and Tim. The leader asked, "Where's the rest of your flock?" Old Henry explained where the rest of the flock was and why Tim hadn't gone with them. The leader of the other flock said, "We're from one of the big lakes between Canada and the United States." So everyone hold that spot for just a moment. Take a look at that map. Below the map is a key. Touch the letter A in the key. It shows the boundary line between the United States and Canada. Find that line on the map and trace over it with your finger from one side to the other. The leader of the other flock lives on one of those big lakes between Canada and the United States. Those lakes are called the Great Lakes. Letter B on the key shows the color of the Great Lakes on the map. Can you see the 5 Great Lakes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 Great Lakes. You're probably familiar with this one, right? This is Lake Superior. If you've been to Duluth or Two Harbors or Grand Marais, right? Those are all in this area, right? Along Lake Superior. That's one of the 5 Great Lakes. How many are there? Right, 5. Let's finish our story. Tim said, "I know those big lakes. We flew over one of them. Didn't we, Henry?" "Yes, we did," Henry said. Then he asked the leader, "Are you on your way to Florida?" "We are," the leader said. We go to Reedy Lake. That's wonderful, old Henry said. Tim is trying to go to Crooked Lake. Oh, the leader said. That's only a few miles from Reedy Lake. Old Henry said, How would it be if Tim went with your flock? You could drop him off at Crooked Lake. We could do that, the leader said. So, scholars, that ends our story today. Did you hear old Henry's newest plan? What do you think Tim is going to think of that plan? Let's find out tomorrow if you're correct. So, scholars, the next thing you're going to need is your packet. And we're on lesson 8. So this is what lesson 8 looks like in your packet. Now, lesson 8's work is a little bit tricky, and it would be one that if we were in the school building together, we probably would work on at least some of it together because it could be kind of tricky. But lesson 8, mistakes can lead to lessons. So think about what mistakes Tim has made throughout the story. Then think about what he learned from those mistakes. You can use these starters if it helps. So there's some ideas here, scholars. This little part right here, right? If you're having trouble with answers, you can use that as a way to help you in kind of getting started on an answer. So oh my goodness, it says old Tim and Henry. Oops, that should say old Henry and Tim. Tim did not know which way was south. Right? That was his mistake earlier in our story. So Tim did not know which way was south. What lesson could he have learned from that? So, you know what comes to my mind is this little starter right here. I'm thinking when you start to do something, it may feel right. You might remember old Henry told Tim, right, to go up into the air and start flying, and that he'd fly in the direction that felt right? And that let him know, oh, he learned a lesson there that once he started, he would feel it was the correct thing to do. Have you ever started working on something and thought, oh, this feels right. I feel like I know what I'm doing. Or maybe you've been starting something and think, oh, this seems wrong, or this is not the thing I should be doing. And then hopefully you stopped. I think we could all write that for the first one. It's okay to copy what I have and us doing that answer together. So then our next one, so still this should be old Henry and Tim. Tim wanted to land on a lake with only a few geese on it. Do you remember earlier in our stories when he wanted to do that? And then he learned a lesson. Think, what lesson did he learn from Henry about that? And that's what you're going to fill in here. And then you get to think of your own mistake that Tim made. And then what lesson did he learn from that? So, mistake, lesson learned. Try your best. It's going to be tricky today. But remember, you have some starters up there that could help you. Right? Then we have a little rubric, right? My chart is complete for a point. Right? You thought of lessons that were learned. That's 3 of the points. And make sure you're using proper punctuation and complete sentences, right? So work carefully. Then we have one more little thing right here that you need to answer. All right? Try your best. This one's a little tricky today, but scholars, we can do tricky work. We can stretch our brains a little bit today. I know you've got this, and I look really forward to seeing your answers.